I have a picture in my office of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that says this: "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." I have this image because I think it reflects Dr. King's ministry well. Of course, it doesn't claim that the guy was perfect and never did anything wrong, but it represents what he looked like and what he strived for. Can you imagine if you came into my office one day and I pointed at that same image and said, "Oh, that's of Michael Jordan"? You look at me and look at that image and think, "Matthew, you're crazy." Why? Because the image did not represent the person I was claiming it was. It didn't represent it well. That's the business of images, to represent the person, place, or thing well. According to the book of Acts, the church is supposed to represent Jesus to the world. We've already talked about how the church teaches like Jesus, shares like Jesus, suffers like Jesus, and does acts of justice like Jesus. But what we see in Acts 4:32 to the end of chapter 5 is a moment of conflict, in which we see not everyone within the church represents Jesus completely well. We see in this passage two summary statements and two scenes that exemplify what is being summarized. So in Acts 4:32 to 35, the summary is this: the church cares for the needy. And then we get a scene of Barnabas actually exemplifying this, and also two people, Ananias and Sapphira, not doing it. In Acts 5:12 through 16, we get this summary statement: the church represents God. And then we get the scene in 5:17 through 42 of Peter claiming that he's trying to serve God, God's will, and not man's will. I think there's a bridge that we can do between these two different summaries and scenes. In both instances, Ananias and Sapphira and the Sadducees claim to be representing God, and yet they're not doing it in the right way. They have mixed motivations, if you will. The text says that they were filled with something, deceit or jealousy. Ananias and Sapphira claimed to sell some of their property for the sake of the needy, but it was really because they wanted to be honored like Barnabas was, and also hold onto some of their money. The Sadducees, who were supposed to represent God to those who came into the temple, sought to keep their power and authority against anyone that may have influence on the crowds. With the conflict from without and within, the church's integrity is tested. Whose kingdom is it trying to represent? Peter and the apostles stated clearly when they say to the Sadducees, "We must obey God rather than people." And this is the call of every follower of Jesus. The church represents God when we seek first His kingdom over our own. The church is supposed to be witnesses of Jesus, to represent Him and His gospel well, to seek first His kingdom. On a practical level, that means being honest about our desires and motivations. Let us, like the early church, truly believe that it is better to give than to receive. That as we pursue holiness, we strive to get rid of our selfishness. What is the church about? It is not about me and Jesus' kingdom, or Jesus and my kingdom, or me and my kingdom. It's about Jesus and His kingdom.